Stone Cold.
I told him, Austin.
Robert Walsh, ladies and gentlemen.
I told him, Austin, there's no need, and I say this respectfully, young Reed, he's a Vol, but he was on the B team, man. Burt's back. He's back, Austin.
I know. Did you know that I refused to talk until
Yep.
Well, we told him that you were actually going to do what every Tennessee player seemingly is doing and enter the transfer portal and go to Ole Miss if you didn't have the glass breaking this morning, Austin.
Nah, you never know. If you're down that way and they're in Memphis, you might see me later this week.
There you go.
Are you trying to drop a nugget right there, Austin?
I know, right?
You don't just say those things for nothing, Austin.
No, this is a family trip.
Nice. There you go.
Where you going
There
for
it
family, Austin? This is not the time of
It's
the year
Christmas.
for family.
Yeah.
Come on,
Okay.
Ramon.
All right, what you doing?
All right. Austin Price of VolQuest with us. Austin, with bowl practices starting up and the conversation continuing about Joe Milton, Nico Iamaleava, and the Citrus Bowl, is there any chance Josh Heupel just decides to go with Nico Iamaleava for a certain amount of series? What is the timeline for just knowing a firm answer potentially on Tennessee's quarterback situation in Orlando?
Well, I think if Tennessee, if Joe elects not to play, and this will be a Joe decision. I don't think Josh Heupel is going to tell Joe he cannot play the bowl game.
Sure.
But if Joe elected to not play in the bowl game, I think that that's something that they probably would keep quiet for at least a little bit longer. I don't see them just unveiling it right now. I mean, Josh Heupel's big on he's big on the gamesmanship, and so if that were to be the case, then I think you would see it a little closer. I'm not saying he's going to take it all the way to the day before the game or anything like that, but I mean, I think that he's going to Iowa to spend as much time preparing for one guy when it's the other guy, as long as they can. So again, I think that that's still a possibility. I don't think it's crazy talk to think that you could see Joe elect not to play in the bowl game, but all sides have a little time involved here, a little bit of time before it gets really before the rubber meets the road.
Well, Austin, this Iowa offense is not one that is super intimidating. I think there are some high school teams, maybe a Knoxville West or a McCallie or Baylor, that could maybe get some stops against this Iowa offense. But for the Tennessee secondary specifically, a big opportunity with a lot of transfers out for some younger guys to get some reps. Who do you think steps up into a bigger role in that secondary? Who does Tennessee want to see get live action for maybe the first time?
Well, I think what you'll see is Ricky Gibson get a lot more run. I think he starts the game, plays a ton. I think Jordan Matthews, Christian Conyers are all very real possibilities to, get their first real run of the season. And we'll see at safety. I mean, Tank McCullough's going to play, and then Andre Turntine. We'll see what they do at star. I would assume that's Jordan Thomas. Will Brooks obviously, played the last couple of games due to injury, but this is a real opportunity. I think coaches by nature struggle to play young guys unless they're forced to, because what if he busts? What if he doesn't know what to do? What if he goes the wrong way and it leads to points for the other team? And I think coaches by nature struggle. They're forced in a lot of ways with some of the transfers or opt-outs to play some of these young guys, whether it be Cam Selding at tailback, whether it be Ricky Gibson and Jordan Matthews and Christian Conyers in the secondary. They're forced to do it. And so, I think it would help all parties involved if the young guys played well, because if they play well, it emboldens the coaches to take more risks playing young guys going forward, right? Whereas if they go out there and they don't play well, then it's going to make them even more gun shy. So I think for all parties involved, it would be good if those young DBs played well, if Cam Seldon played well, to kind of, I guess, embolden the coaches going into 2024, because I think Tennessee needs to play more of the younger guys going forward.
Austin, going into the bowl practices, I hated them because it was just you and your teammates every single day. But I get it now, man, because it's your opportunity to really, leapfrog into the next year before off-season training hits. For this group in particular, you're talking mainly about the young guys and what they have to do. What is the goals for this team? I think that may need some real adjustment that they can actually see in this bowl settings right now as they practice.
Pertaining to what? As
far as I would say, this offense. Is there anything you want to see come out of this bowl practice and in the game that you say, yes, that's something we needed to see adjusted as far as the way they are operating offensively, i.e. going over the middle or not just running straight down the sideline?
You hit the nail on the head. It's working the middle of the field. I mean, you go back to the last game or two, Tennessee worked the middle of the field fairly well. I think working the tight ends is something I want to continue to see. They did that this year. I mean, Jacob Moore and McCallum Castles totaled 8 touchdowns. That's a nice number from the tight end spot. And you just love to see, more plays made at the wide receiver spot, whether it be Chaz Nimrod, Caleb Webb, Squirrel White. You just want to see Tennessee be able to throw it around a little bit better. The offense looks so different this past year compared to the last 2 years. Was that just the change at quarterback? Was that not being as good a receiver? Was it a combination of the both? I mean, obviously Tennessee ran the ball really well this year. Jalen Wright had a special year, and then, Dylan Sampson and Jabari Small were nice pieces around him. And so, I think you just love to see the offense take a turn, Ramon, where it looks more like the 2022 offense and not the 2023 offense.
With the exit of Tyler Barron going to Ole Miss, he played that kind of hybrid D-end, big D tackle, or small D tackle role. Is there anybody that comes to mind that you look to play in that role for this group moving forward?
Well, I think going forward, you look at a guy like Tyree Weathersby, who had the hip surgery back in August and had to miss the season. I think that's where they envision him playing. And Tyree certainly looks the part. And I know that he had done enough in a short amount of time that Rodney Garner was uber excited, and Rodney Garner just doesn't get uber excited about much. So, if he returns to form, then, I would envision him being that role. Tennessee would love to, continue to see a guy like Tyree West come along. I think that's another guy that you can pinpoint. He'll be going to his 3rd year in the program next year. And so you look at those couple of guys, and I think that's kind of where you start. Now, for this bowl game, I think this is more on a guy like Tyree West, or Dom Bailey. Those two would be the two I would look at in this bowl game to pick up the slack where Tyler Barron will not be there.
Speaking of the transfers too, though, Austin, you have a timeline in which to get in and look for a home. If within the first 2 weeks of you entering, is that when the panic button kind of starts to set in a little bit when you look at guys that have hopped into the portal? And the only reason I mention that because you have a former 4-star like Addison Nichols who's yet to name his location. Where do you go with that? Is it just, okay, we'll wait and see?
Yeah, I mean, you hope for Addison that he finds the landing spot he's looking for, right? I think some kids, not all, some have no plan, and they get in not understanding, like, most kids kind of know where they're going, or at least know the handful of teams that they're looking at. It doesn't feel like Addison's, in any rush, and so you hope that the destinations that he's looking for are there for him when he makes a decision. But will be interesting to kind of see how that one plays out. At this point, Jack Luttrell's with Arizona, T-Mac and Tyler Barron, Ole Miss, Danico Slaughter, Arkansas, Warren Burrell, Georgia Tech. Out of all those players, Barron to me would be the only one that you really hated to lose. Tyler was a really productive player here, and certainly you'd love to have had him back from a production standpoint, and but the rest, I mean, either missed a chunk of the season or hadn't done a whole lot, and so I don't think that their loss is as impactful as Tyler Barron's.
Austin Price of VolQuest's joining us this morning on RKW. Austin, let's talk a little recruiting. Adding a 2024 piece again with a JUCO defensive lineman, Jamal Wallace, and I know coming up from the Sacramento area to play ball here. What does a guy with experience do to help a team on top of just already, getting a guy like that?
Well, I think, getting a JUCO kid, you expect them to come in and try to, fill voids or help right away. Tennessee's really deep on the defensive line, Kayla, so I don't think they necessarily have to have him right away. He's an interesting prospect. He's kind of like he's the football version of Anthony Davis from a standpoint of, and he didn't go from 6'1" to 6'11". He went from 190 to 290. he added 100 pounds coming out of high school during COVID. And so, he's went from a skill guy to a kind of at the JUCO level, a stand-up edge defensive lineman. He's going to be an inside guy here, in my opinion. I mean, again, he's pushing 3 bills and moves really well for his size. But he's still not one. I don't see him standing up the way they have him used at the junior college level. But either way, I mean, you're adding a JUCO like Jamal Wallace with the expectations that he can come in and help you. Now, again, as I said, they're pretty deep on the defensive line. Where I think he really helps you is interior 2025. Because right now Tennessee doesn't have a lot of interior guys for that 2025 roster.
How about defensive lineman Carson Gentle? And I know he made the commitment back in July of 2022.
Yeah, he's been committed for a while, and the longest tenured commitment in the class, and took his official visit this past weekend. And he played linebacker at McCallie. He will not play linebacker here.
Right.
So, I think they'll, be trying to, he's a strong kid, but they'll be trying to put, get more strength on him and probably put a little bit more weight on him. And, I'd say, between 250 and 260 is where I kind of envision him, once he gets to the field. I don't see him, again, they're so deep on the defensive line. I don't see him playing right away. So that next year, putting the right kind of weight on him, getting him stronger and seeing where he can go from there.
Austin Price, VolQuest.com, at Austin Priceless on Twitter, where you can follow him. Austin, with Tennessee now having its 2 subtractions in the transfer portal, and Tamarian McDonald and Tyler Barron, Danico Slaughter, who you mentioned, announcing his destination as well. What is the next big domino to fall for Tennessee? Is they wait on a corner for the Pac-12, a wide receiver from Tulane? What do you feel like is next up on Tennessee's radar?
Well, those two. Jermod McCoy will announce his decision later today. I feel like Tennessee's done a really nice job in this one, continues to trend well there. Then Chris Brazel, wide receiver from Tulane. He's from the state of Texas. Had a really productive year. Tennessee wanted to add an outside receiver. Feels like Tennessee's in a really, solid spot with Chris as he heads into a decision probably in the next 24 to 48 hours, I would say. This is a kid who's long, athletic, can run, and that's what Tennessee wanted out of the portal at the wide receiver spot, get an outside receiver. And then, we wait on to see what Brew McCoy's going to do. Is he going to stay or is he going to go pro? I don't see him transferring. It's just a matter of, does he stick around for another year or does he go pro? And then the high school kids, the tight ends, Willie Rodriguez, Cole Harrison, both of those had a really good visit this past weekend, and wouldn't shock me if either one of those ended up in Orange.
So, Austin, Tullahoma native Jacoby Thomas flips from Oregon State to Tennessee. Something about Oregon State defensive backs, or just guys that are tied to that program for this Tennessee team. Former MTSU defensive back. What is Tennessee getting in him, and where do you see him fitting into this defense next season?
A safety, really productive player at MTSU, and, a kid who is excited to wear his home state colors. And, there's a lot of pride in that. I think the excitement, in his voice when he was telling me about, picking Tennessee, I mean, it just meant something to him. It meant something to Ramon. It meant something to Ron Slay. More old school. Because, not every kid that comes out now has that home state pride or, just pride in their school. Look, everybody's got to do what they got to do. I kind of got on my soapbox last Thursday when I was on with you all. And, everybody's got to do what they got to do. But, I just wonder if some kids don't think about, the long-term effects of bouncing around, especially if they're playing. I mean, like if they're not playing, that's different. But, the kids that leave that, are starters just because, they wanted an extra $10,000 or $15,000 in NIL, just sometimes it just kind of makes me queasy. It's like, I mean, like, did you really think about the long-term effects of this? I mean, like from, just being around the program. But he's got, so much pride, in being here. And, we'll see what he does. Again, he's been super productive at MTSU. And I think that that's a testament to his hard work coming out of Tullahoma. And, that program, is, of course, is coming off a state title, 2 years ago. And, I know he wasn't on that team, but he has, kind of laid the foundation for that group. So excited to kind of see what he can do at the safety spot here.
That's some cool stuff right there, Austin, because that's always my conversations for in-state guys when it's time to make that decision. Like, where are you planning on being at after you're done? Kind of goes a long way. As you mentioned me and Ron's name, there's so many other guys around this state, from this state, or have been here for a while, that it really is there's opportunity here for you in this world if you decide to stay in state. Now, I get it. Tennessee ain't for everybody, and I will not make that case either. But it is fascinating when you have those type of guys that understand why they're staying in state, Austin.
Yeah, 100%. Again, like, you're never going to keep every player in state, no matter where you go. I mean, you look at the On3, 24/7 Rivals rankings for the state of Georgia for this 2024 class. I don't think Georgia's getting one of the top 10. And they're the best team in college football. I know they're not in the playoffs because they lost Alabama in the championship game, but I mean, they've been the best program in college football the last 3 or 4 years. And they're not getting one of the top 10 in their state. I mean, like, I think that's just kind of where we're at. But I mean, you're never going to get them all, but I think the ones you do get, you hope, take some pride in it, right? That, I know the ones that, Georgia gets they take pride in wearing the G. The Tennessee takes pride in wearing the T. People from Alabama, take pride in playing at Alabama. So, I mean, again, it's not for everybody, but I just think, for some kids, especially the ones that have been here 3 or 4 years that are playing, you think about, the going away for 1 year for a little bit more money. Does it have an impact long term? Is that 1 year worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Maybe it is, and I hope it is for all those kids. I hope they get everything they want out of life. But sometimes I think that decisions get made without thinking about the trickle down